Hi YouTube, photographer Ronix from Ronix Photography, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys some little bit of tips and ideas you can use to improve your wedding photography. And yeah, we are also going to be editing this image. So first of all, I want to share with you my tips or what I go through when I'm preparing for, if I have a wedding, what I usually do. So first of all, for my preparations, I make sure I have every gadget on me before leaving the office. So I make sure I have enough cards for storage because I wouldn't want to uh, have less storage or with me. And I make sure every single battery is charged, and I usually make sure I have an extra battery, and I always have to carry a charger in my bag. So that is the tip number one for my preparation stage. So after that, I now make sure my devices are working well. So this includes testing the devices before I leave the office. So I make sure everything is working perfectly well and is doing fine. That is what I ensure, because I wouldn't want to reach the wedding and my devices fail to function or my flashes fail to fire or flash. So I usually make sure that is done. So the other thing I usually take into consideration is knowing the type of wedding I'm going to shoot. Yeah, because there are many types of weddings. We have civil weddings, we have church weddings, then we have mosque weddings. So I usually put that in mind. Even, yeah, I know this is one of the tips you have to consider when you're getting your bookings, but I usually make sure that is in mind. So after that, I now make sure I am on time. I usually make sure I'm at the venue. Maybe like for Ugandan weddings, usually we have saloon. Saloon usually comes first, so you have to be maybe at the venue where the you have to be at the venue where the maybe the groom or the bride slept, so that you can keep in touch. Or maybe you have to have an idea where the saloon is going to be. Yeah, the location, you may have the idea before the wedding, but you may not know the exact location. So make sure you prepare and you know where the location is, because you don't want to start rushing at the very end of um, the last minute wedding. So make sure you put that in mind. The other thing I usually make sure I have enough to eat. For many cases is when you reach some venues, most of the time you tend to maybe you're not shooting well because you are having hunger issues. So make sure you prepare enough and maybe carry water if at all you're not going to shoot in maybe a hotel or anything like that. Yeah, so make sure you carry something or you have something to eat before maybe you go and start shooting, because you want to prepare enough and prepare well for the wedding so that you have a sober mind and a well working body. And now we come to the shooting. Make sure you prepare your poses well. You have the idea of what you really want to shoot, and now also make sure you have the poses right and the type of environment you want to shoot. Maybe the couple poses. So make sure you have that in mind, because usually for Ugandan weddings, it is always a kind of rush hour, because after the saloon, you tend to rush straight to church, and from church, you have a garden session like this right here. So make sure you know the poses, because there will be someone who will be timing you, because you have to be at the reception after the garden. So make sure you have the poses. And yeah, the other thing, you have to be interactive, you have to be lively. Yeah, you shouldn't put on that tough face. Make sure you communicate well with the couple. Make sure you interact well and make them feel free. So when you do this, you tend to have the best of your poses, and yeah, every photo you take will be natural, magical, and lively. So make sure you interact well with the couple while you're giving them poses and tips on how to pose for the photos. Now, the other thing is, I think I should have said this first before. When you're shooting, make sure you utilize the lighting. Yeah, the lighting. So, if at all the place has enough lighting and you don't want to carry your flash here and there, make sure you shoot natural light, and on top of that, make sure you shoot in RAW. As you can see this image, let me first talk about this image. This image, I was a second shooter. We were two photographers at this wedding. So the reason as to why I chose to shoot RAW is to get the full potential in my images. As you can see, let me try zooming in for you. You can see this image. Yeah, this image is fair, but you can see the gown. Yeah, the gown of the bride was kind of overexposed. So most of the time, if you tend to shoot JPEG, you may not recover these blown out details in the gown. So you may end up missing out on these vital details on the gown. So make sure you always shoot RAW, because remember, we are now in the gardens, and for Ugandan weddings, it is kind of a rush hour in the garden or the photo session. So make sure you have the poses and you shoot RAW, because even if you underexpose this image, you can usually recover it by pumping up maybe the shadows, and if at all the highlights are blown out, you can just come. Let me show you guys. You can just pull down the highlights, and you can as well pull down the whites, so you can see. Let me show you guys what I had to recover. You can see this was the before for the gown, and this is the after. Before, you can see after, before, after. You can see I have recovered all these beautiful details in the wedding gown. So since this is a raw image, I haven't done any big adjustments to it. So this is how initially I took the image. Remember, we had to get the poses right there and then, and you had to give there's no enough time to give poses, so you had to utilize every single moment you had. So this is yet another tip. And the other thing is, for wedding images, make sure you don't over retouch your images. Make sure your images are natural enough, because you don't want to change the faces of maybe the bride or the groom. And yeah, and when editing the male features or the face, make sure you leave there are some details we tend to miss out. Yeah, sometimes we tend to leave out those vital details, like maybe a scar maybe can be showing having history on someone. So make sure you, when you're retouching these images after you have shot them, make sure you first of all ask the couple whether to remove some scars. So if at all they grant you the permission, you can go ahead and remove the scars. And the other thing you have to do is, now for your images, make sure you leave them natural enough. And for the other guests, make sure what you have to do is removing maybe the rubbish and yeah, those distractions that may be in the shot, and make sure you leave them as natural as possible, unless it is the couple's decision that they want each and everything retouched. But of course, you have to maybe charge them a little bit more. And now the other thing you have to do is, remember, you have taken the photos after the wedding. Make sure you send the couple some photos, because they are always excited about their day. Make sure you give them some photos to maybe post on their different social media handles when they still have that heat for the wedding, when they are still excited and in the mood for their wedding. So when you do this, in most cases, it kind of markets you, because everyone will be anticipated and they will be anticipating and waiting for the photos. So when you deliver them, everyone will run to maybe their WhatsApp status or maybe Instagram story, and they will post your images. So if at all you edit them quickly, maybe give them around 5 to 10 images for them to post when they are, before they can even go for their honeymoon. So you they will be excited about them, and you can as well use it as a marketing strategy, because people will be posting the images on their different social media handles. So make sure you deliver the images. And the other thing you have to do is make sure you don't make the couple overweight for their images. Make sure you deliver on time, and it is the thing that will market you and to help you get some more clients. So make sure you do that on time, and yeah, they'll recommend you. And the other thing is, maybe you have to ask them to politely ask them to give you credit when they are posting the images. So this is not all for wedding photography, but I'm just sharing a little tips for you where for the preparations and when you're shooting, the do's and the don'ts. So that you can have the most perfect results from your wedding photography. And now we are going to start kicking in, and we're going to be retouching this image. So stick around so that you can learn something. And yeah, like I said, you have to always shoot raw. So this is the image, and the brief details about this image. I took this image using a Canon 6D camera, and it was taken at f4 at 1 out of 200th of a second, and it was taken at ISO 400, and it was taken at using a 24-105 lens, and I took it at 75mm because I wanted a wide lens to steal the shot, since we are like two photographers at the same wedding. So what I would do basically for this image, and since it is a raw image, I'll first of all want it to look the way I edited it, or sorry, the way I took it in the camera. So just come right here to camera calibration, and since I usually shoot my images I usually shoot them in landscape style, just come right down here and choose the way you shot the image in the field. So usually I prefer landscape because it has those vibrant colors and rich tones. So I usually shoot in landscape. So you can choose whatever style works for you. So I'll go in for landscape, and as you can see, this is how I was viewing the image on my camera screen. So this is, you can see now the colors are now back and the image kind of looks lively enough. So I'm going to come right to my basic panel, and I'm going to pull down the highlights, because the highlights on the dress of the bride were kind of blown out. Let me show you guys. They were kind of blown out, so I want first of all kind of recover these simple lost details. So I'm going to also come to my whites, and I'm going to pull them all the way down. This is what I usually do for my images, where especially when I have lost the details in my whites, I tend to do this. So I knock the whites and the highlights all the way down, so you can see now we have gotten back these details. So you can see a brief before and the after. Before, after, you can see the details on the bride's gown are now evident. You can see now, this is why I was telling you guys, you have to always shoot your images in RAW. So after that, I'll just come to my blacks and I'll knock them down a little bit, because I want to get some little bit of color in this image. Then I'll come to my contrast, and I'm going to pump it to around, I'm going to leave it at 9. Then I'm going to come to my shadows, I'm going to pull them a little bit up around 10. So I'm going to come to my vibrance, and I'm going to pull it up because I want this image to really pop. And yeah, so after that, I'm going to come to my clarity. I'm going to add in like 7 to this image. As you can see now, the image looks lively and lovely. So this is the before after. You can see it is really nice, and that is the power of shooting in RAW. So the other thing I want to do, I want to sharpen this image. It doesn't look sharp enough. And yeah, I think it was the issue with the lens I was using that day. So I'm going to come right here to sharpening, and I'm going to, first of all, before sharpening, I'm going to click out, and I'm going to mask where I want the sharpening to take place. So you can see when you mask, uh, you can see the outlines of the bride and the groom. So I'm going to come right here, and I'm going to sharpen while still holding down the Alt key. So now the image has already been sharpened. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come to my hue and saturation, and I'm going to play around with these little colors. I'm going to play around with my greens and yellows in this image. So I'm going to come to my hue, and I'm going to play around with these colors. So I'm going to leave my greens at around 30, yeah, positive 30, and the whites too. Sorry, the yellows. You can see you have to play around with these colors. So I'm going to leave it at around 43. Then I'm going to come to my saturation, and I'm going to pull the green saturation somewhere down. Minus 11 will do for this image. I'm going to come to my luminous, and still I'm going to play around with my greens and yellows. So remember, when you do this, the image is going to really look artificial, so you have to pull the luminous with care. So I think I'm done with these adjustments. So you can see the before and after for our hue, saturation, and luminous. So you can see now this is where the image is. So come and open the image. So right now we are now opening the image in our Photoshop. So like I said, make sure you leave the images as natural as possible, because you don't want to distort the natural form of the image and how it was. So I'm going to do some little bit of frequency separation, and I'm going to play my frequency separation action. I'm going to be using my mixer brush tool, but I'm going to be doing less of the skin retouching. So I'm going to click Ctrl J, and I'm going to come right to my actions, and I'm going to play my frequency separation action. So I'm going to continue, and for my radius, I'm going to use a radius of 8. Okay, and I'm going to continue. So I'm going to come right to my mixer brush tool after clicking on my lower frequency layer, and I'm going to select my mixer brush tool right here. And for my settings, the ones I usually use, I'm going to put a link up for my mixer brush tool settings, and I'm going to start mixing these simple areas. And remember, we are not going to overdo this. So we are now kind of blending these skin tones. And yeah, this couple was really lovely, and I loved each and every shot I took at this wedding. So you can see now the before and the after. It is not too much. So what we are doing, we are just blending. You can see our bride and groom really had a nice skin. They were really nice, and they looked lovely on their special day. I just pray and hope I look this cute on my special day. So I think I'm done with these little adjustments. So you can see the before and after. It is not too much. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to create a stamp visible layer on top of the frequency separation. So I'm going to Shift Alt Control E to create that stamp visible layer, and I'm going now to kind of enhance the tones of the bride and the groom. So I'm going to use my selective color. So I'm going to add in some cyans, in the reds, and I'm going to add some yellows to the reds, so you can see. Yeah, I really love the way it looks. I'm going to come right to my blacks, and I'm going to add some little bit of more blacks in the blacks. I don't know if I'm making sense, but yeah, I'm going to add in blacks in the blacks. So I think this is really lovely for the color grading of this image. And if at all you want to go on with enhancing these simple colors in the image, you can go ahead. But as I said, for wedding images, make sure you don't overdo the retouching, because you didn't want to distort the original way the bride and the groom look in real life. So this is the image. We are done retouching and editing this image. So you can edit 10 of these images and send them on that very day to the bride and the groom, and promise me you'll get so many more clients within, and you'll be getting so many inquiries, and you get marketed because they'll post these very images on their social media handles, and yeah, they may tag you, they may mention you, and when they mention you, the better, and you'll be doing good business. So this has been a video about wedding tips, the do's and don'ts, and how to do your simple retouching of your wedding photography. And if at all you love this video, don't forget to hit a thumbs up, and don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe if at all you haven't subscribed to this channel. Yeah, I'll see you in yet another retouching tutorial on this channel. I'm Ronix from Ronix Photography. Take care and be safe. Till next time.